नमस्कार। हरा धनिया बारीक कटा हुआ
Hey
आप सबको बहुत
everyone, welcome back to our second Hindi Unlocked mini lesson. This is going to be a grammar mini lesson. So let's go ahead and get started. So as we start off looking at the Hindi grammar, the very first thing that we need to do is learn a pronoun. Now, a pronoun just takes the place of a person, place, or thing. And the pronoun that I'm going to be teaching you today is the pronoun for I, which is main in Hindi. Now, this has a slight nasal sound at the end of it, so it's kind of like you can feel your nose shaking a little bit. So if you hold your nose and you say may, you should feel your nose vibrate a little bit. So this is the personal pronoun may, and it means I. Now in Hindi, each pronoun has its own helping verb that agrees with it. It's the same as in English, where we have helping verbs am, are, and is. I am, you are, he is, etc. Now, the helping verb for may is who. Now, this is also one of those nasal sounds. When you hold your nose, you should feel it vibrate when you say who, right? So may, who, I am. This is a foundational building block to grammar in Hindi. We have to understand how these helping verbs agree with the pronouns. Now, this is the only pronoun I'll be teaching you in this mini lesson, so remember, main hoon, I am. So before we begin actually learning the present habitual tense, or any tense really, we need to understand the infinitive verb. Every verb in Hindi has kind of what we call a default structure or a default form, and that form is the infinitive form. So that is also what we might call the full form of a verb. And this basically means that the verb is in the to form. For example, in English, we would say to go, or to eat, or to sleep. So the to form is the infinitive form. And in Hindi, we know that a verb is in its infinitive form when it ends with na. The verb jana means to go in Hindi, so that na part, that na ending, is what makes it infinitive. Sometimes we will use the infinitive form of a verb just as it is for several purposes. You know, we also talk about I have to go in English, etc. But often when we want to use a verb in Hindi, we're going to want to put it in a particular tense to conjugate it, as we'd say. And the very first thing that you want to do in Hindi when working with verbs and working with tenses is that you're going to drop the na. You're going to drop the na from the end of the infinitive verb, and that's going to leave us what we call the verb root. So for example, with jana, the verb to go in Hindi, if we simply drop the na ending, that leaves us with just simply ja, which is the root of the verb. And this is actually a very nice feature of Hindi in that you can always tell if something is a verb because it ends in na. So you know, oh, that's the infinitive form. So it's really helpful for learning the language as well. And it's very simple to drop also. You just think the very first step that you have to take before putting a verb in its proper tense is simply removing the na on the end. All right, now that we've taken a look at the infinitive verb, let's go ahead and move on to the present habitual tense. Present habitual is the first tense that I'm going to be teaching you in Hindi. It is also sometimes referred to as the imperfective, which simply means it's an action that hasn't been completed. It's something that kind of may still be going on. And this tense describes an action that currently occurs on a regular basis. For example, I go to school. So I'm not right now going to school. This is not the ing tense. But I do go to school on a regular or on a habitual basis. So that's where we get the tense, the name of the tense, present habitual. And in most Hindi tenses, the verb agrees with the gender and number of the subject. That is normally the pronoun. Okay, so don't worry, again, don't be turned off by these grammatical terms. I'm going to show you how this works, and trust me, it is very easy. It is extremely simple, and we'll get into it in just a minute. But let's look now at this tense using the personal pronoun may. Remember, we already learned in our previous lesson the pronouns may and op. And now I'm going to show you how to use the present habitual tense with the pronoun may. So let's take a look at that. All right, so we have a flowchart here. I'm the only one, as far as I know, that teaches Hindi with flowcharts. That's what you pay me the big money for. I make it simple, I make it easy, and this is really going to just allow you to internalize the process of how we conjugate verbs, how we put verbs into the correct tenses with the correct ending. So it's a simple step-by-step process. The first thing that we're going to do is we are going to start with the infinitive. Remember, I said we always begin with the infinitive. And the very first thing that you want to do with the infinitive is simply remove the ending. Okay, so again, if our example verb is jana, which I already told you means to go, jana is the infinitive form with the na. We simply take off the na, so jana minus na equals what? Ja. So ja is our root, the root of the verb. Now this question may seem a little odd to us, but the question is, are you male or female? And the reason we have to ask this question is we're using the personal pronoun may, which means I. And I said in Hindi that the ending of the verb agrees with what? The subject. And the subject in this sentence, in this case, is I. So it matters whether I'm talking about myself, I am male or female, because the ending of the verb is going to have to agree with my gender, the gender of the pronoun. So I'm going to go ahead and do this as a male, which I am, obviously. And as a male, what I have to do in this tense is simply add ta after the root, ta. It's a long a sound, so ta, ta. So ja plus ta gives me jata. Very simple, right? And finally, to end this process, I have to put the verb in between may and who. Remember from our previous lesson on pronouns, you have each pronoun has a helping verb that agrees with it. So the correct helping verb for may is who. May, who. So we simply add this new construction, jata, in between our may and who, and that gives us the sentence, may jata who, or I go, on a regular or on a habitual basis. Now let's look at how we would do this as a female. All right, so the process is the same here. We're going to start with the infinitive, which is jana, to go. We're going to remove the ending. Jana minus na gives us ja. Then we're going to ask the question, are we male or female? For the sake of argument, let's just say I am female. So we're going to go on the female track. And as a female in this tense, instead of adding ta after the root, we're going to add t after the root. You'll quickly notice that the ah sound is associated with masculine, and the e sound in Hindi is associated with the feminine. But for now, understand this tense, all we have to do is add t to our root. So ja plus t gives us jati. And again, we have to put the verb in between the pronoun and the helping verb, main hoon. So we add jati in between those, and that gives us main jati hoon, or I go, as a female. This is if we were speaking as a female. So let's recap what we've learned thus far. It's really easy, right? All we have to do is drop the na and add ta hu if you're a male and ti hu if you're a female. Now remember, who is our helping verb for the personal pronoun may, I. Now, of course, this does become a bit more challenging when we use this tense with different pronouns, as the verb endings change to agree with the pronoun that we use. For example, if we wanted to say you go, or do you go, will you go, etc. Now, to see how this tense would be used with other pronouns, such as you, he, she, and it, in Hindi, you're going to have to subscribe to the full course on HindiUnlocked.com. And if this has been helpful for you, I would encourage you to do that. Take a look at these examples of the present habitual tense.
बोलना, मैं हिंदी बोलता हूँ. खाना, मैं खाना खाती हूँ. आना, मैं आती हूँ.
Thanks for doing this Hindi Unlocked mini lesson. I hope that this lesson has been helpful for you. Please check out more mini lessons on YouTube, and if you'd like to access the full course content, please go to HindiUnlocked.com. All right, see you again soon.